Hey folks, this is Ben back with you in the Midwest Model Shop. Alright, I want to start out by saying thank you to everyone who's liked and subscribed recently. Like having you all on board. And a big shout out and thank you to everyone who's gone to our website, themidwestmodelshop.com, and made a purchase. If you don't know, what we've been doing over there is producing some 3D printed parts that are meant to make model building easier. So that's kind of the whole theme. We've got some 1/350th and 1/200 scale Oerlikon cannons all printed up and ready to go. We've got parts for the Titanic, and we're working on I have other things in mind and in progress that I'm trying to make work right now. So anyway, that's what's happening. Thank you to everyone who's joined Patreon and is checking out the Duchess of Kingston build we've got going around right here. I got a bunch of videos out on that right away at the beginning of the year. I'm going to try and get some more coming out here soon for everyone else. Alright, so thank you to everyone who's just helped out, and thank you to you if you just clicked the like button. I appreciate that too. So today on the Enterprise, what we're going to do is kind of obviously continuation of the last episode, but in the last episode we had fit issues, we had fit problems that we had to resolve. In this episode, it's more about making sure that what we solved previously works. So I want to go ahead and install a bunch of bulkheads, and so we're going to go ahead and quickly assemble the center elevator, put that into position, because that allows one of the exterior bulkheads that I've been monkeying with since the beginning of this thing to be finally glued into position. That creates a scenario where we can go ahead and take styrene strips and create backing supports basically to glue on that big huge long piece we monkeyed with in the last episode. When you glue things in, right, you don't want stuff floating in the wind, and so that's what we're going to address and fix in this episode. I'm really surprised that this is even happening. This is a huge departure in my experience from most of Trumpeter's models. The Titanic especially, and all their warships that I've put together, any large piece of anything that needs to go onto the hull anywhere has always had plenty of contact points and guides and anchor points to make sure you put it in the right place. For some reason on this kit, they just kind of were like, you know, you've got to stretch this long, we'll put a couple little spots in the end, you'll figure it out. That seems like what they've done. So in this episode, I'm going to show you how I fixed that, and it creates confidence in that when you're putting the piece on, it's plumb, it's straight up and down, it's solid. All you got to do is add glue and you'll be on your way, especially since we're probably going to cut a bunch of it up to put our photo etch in, and we need to make sure things are reinforced. So that's it. Thank you everyone. Let's go ahead and get into the build. Alright, so we have this whole thing. I want to start putting all these big pieces together. So we have our little, I've got my piece of tape out here from the last episode figuring out where this exterior bulkhead goes, but then we've got this internal one. Fits snug, but it only has one locating tab, and it's right here. And then I think you can make out right here and here there's two more locating tabs. I was like, oh, what's that for? Well, it turns out it's for the elevator. That's this little assembly right here on page 22. Not particularly complicated, but what I did figure out looking at this, it looks like this elevator bulkhead like fits together like this, like a little sandwich on it. And then there's the space. It would be nice to, put this in here and put like a strip on the back of this wall so that this thing ends in and out correctly, and maybe another one on the inside here. And then I could do the same thing with this wall that just is wiggling in the wind. So we need to put the elevator together, because that way I can go ahead and put this in here. This wall is fairly obvious, right? It just lines up. But then there's nothing on this bulkhead here to tell you in or out. So it's got to get secured to this wall and in these tabs. So I want to go ahead and we'll throw together the elevator. We'll do the little gluing parts, and then I'll go ahead and do my decorative painting and things like that. And once all of the pieces together, we'll go ahead and glue it in, and then we'll be able to secure this bulkhead, and we'll be able to put in some strips and reinforcement locating pin item type of things for this outside bulkhead right here. All right, we're back looking at the big hole in the ship. There we go, in focus, that's been here. So I hopefully can make this out. Right here, there's a bright white piece of styrene strip that I stuck inside of there in between shots. That is for this bulkhead and this end of the bulkhead, because we have one contact point right there. Our little crane, or sorry, elevator assembly, this bulkhead will bump into that over here, and then on this bulkhead there's nothing, it just fits flush. So by putting that piece of styrene there, I could just come in here, drop this in, pop that back, and as you can see, it sits flush. I'm going to have to put a little glue in there, but you know, it's flush and I don't have to worry about anything. So now we've got this guy. I finished painting up the elevator. I weathered it a little bit. It fits well right here, and then of course there's ultimately another fit issue that we have to address. So let me get some glue going here. We'll just use our Tamiya thin because this fits so tight. We'll go ahead and drop it into position. All right, and then the big thing I want to do, I'm going to just kind of glop a bunch on this wall right here because it does snug up to it. And we'll prep this with a glop of that glue as well. And I'm going to have to do a little clamping. So anyway, this drops in right here, not particularly complicated. And then this wall, we want it flush on the top, right here, and all the way up against it. And make sure we're all the way down. And that will take care of this piece. So let me clamp this and it'll dry, and then we could talk about this spot. All right, actually before we address that fit issue, I figured we could throw this bulkhead in and from the back side. So here you can see my little support. We've got this wall we're going to glue to, and then we have that spot there. And this is the bulkhead. Kind of a waste painting all of this, but in prep I went ahead and removed the paint from this top surface right here because we're going to glue it to right there. So same as before, this stuff works really well. We'll get our Tamiya extra thin and just kind of slather it on here. This is, as far as I could tell, going to be one of the strongest points on this hull. I don't even know if it's necessary, but it is. All right, and then we'll get our glue back along here. Okay, so you can go ahead and lock that back in, push it forward here, get in our slot there and there, push this forward, and we're good. So this bumped up tight, and we're all in up there. We'll just let this set up for a minute. Okay, our glue's setting up here, and I want to draw your attention to right here, these three little slots. So to connect this beam, if you will, or bulkhead across over here, you have this little, you have three of these nice little, I forget what you call these, gantry type of things, framing. Anyway, the idea is it drops into the slot like this, right? And then connects to the hull. And if we flip it around on the other side, you have these little squares like there and there that this end, right, they're supposed to terminate like that right into it. The problem is when you put these into position and you slide them in the slot, it doesn't reach. It ends up short. So what I'm going to do, because I like this slot, is I'm just going to put a little piece of styrene strip on each of these three spots right here to bring this out. I'll use this thing. It's the right distance. I'll just stick it on here like this, let the glue dry, and then there'll be something for this to connect to, and then we will have secured that little distance right there. Right, so I've dropped two of these in, and I wanted to stop and point something out there. This may or may not be relevant. We'll see. So first of all, you can see that I'm not centered on my little blocks. I'm to the left. I put these little styrene add-on strips directly on the squares that Trumpeter had created. And what I found is that if I centered my little beam on them, they were crooked. Now they're crooked in relationship to this line and this line, this bulkhead. Are you going to see it when the ship's all said and done? No, you're not. Does it drive me insane right now? Yes, it does, and that's why I'm doing it correctly. So I wanted to point that out. The other thing is, this is a little bit more important. I'm going to keep adjusting the camera here. There you go. So we're looking straight down now. It occurred to me the tiniest bit of extra on these beams pushes this bulkhead out. And down the road, that could be an issue. So I am trimming them very, very carefully so that I maintain as best as I can within, a half a mil or something, a mil straight and plumb right across here. So I've got one more to do all the way over here on our left, and that will satisfy this and we'll be moving on. But I wanted to point this out because when we, if you're going to leave this elevator closed and covered, who really cares? But this is the one that I actually think I want in motion mid-ship when we're done, because if I move back, right, obviously the one in the bow, we'll just keep that one covered. But back here, if you pretend there's a deck on here, you could have some airplanes back here and then some coming up right here behind the aft, behind the funnel and everything. So because of that, my concern is that this hole needs to match the deck and everything goes on top of it. You want it straight. You don't want to be pushing on these things later on. So I'm going on my way to keep this as plumb as I possibly can right now. So let me go ahead and get this last piece in here and then we'll talk about this other bulkhead. Okay, with this bulkhead secured, we're back to essentially this mess, this piece that we figured out in the last episode. So I know now that it's going to drop in here for sure. Oh my goodness, it's hard to do. Like this. And that this length of bulkhead, at least all the way up to right here, this little notch cut out, is going to run flush with the outside of the hull. And, there's nothing. It's really aggravating. So what I want to do is go ahead and take this styrene strip here and glue it into position along this hull here, creating a lip that will force the bulkhead to bump up again, so I have some sort of support right there. And then what I also want to do is figure out what happens when we move forward. So if I put this in here, I just can't seem to do it now that I'm talking to you guys. Right here, that cutout, I want to mark this line because this area is also really sketch. This whole length. It's this edge is straight. I put this straight edge on it so you'll be able to see to right about here, and then it starts to taper in. But I should use a longer straight edge. I go like this. There we go. So we're parallel, we're flush right along here. And then as you pan forward, this forward bulkhead that we were monkeying with before also bumps up flush. So this is straight. So there's this weird V opening right here that I don't know what they were doing when they designed this that created this problem. So what I need to do is also figure out and put some styrene in along the bottom here so I have a straight edge down here as well. And so it'll terminate, I think it breaks right about here. At least it'll be support on the bottom until we get up to this bulkhead edge. And this piece, it's not ready to go in yet. I suppose I could do the work on it now and install it, but it's not really what I want to do. And it's pretty robust, so I feel like once this is in and this drops in straight down, we could go ahead and it'll work. Okay, so anyway, let's get some styrene marked and put in position. All right, I've got a piece cut, and this is simple because there's the deck that I'm applying this glue to, and then there's the kit hull, and you may not be able to make it out very well in the video that you're watching, but it's very distinct right here in person. And so I'm just going to follow along. And I did the same thing on the inside of this bulkhead. I just placed the piece right along the edge. It worked out fine. Actually need to come this way. Always leave yourself a bit of a gap in the corner. You don't want to have something going on that you're not aware of that inadvertently causes you to have trouble. You really do want it right on the edge. All right, so we'll just keep pressing along like that, glue this piece in. All right, there's our piece in, and now we have to concern ourselves with over here. So I'm going to get some tape. I've got a pencil. If I take this and I bump it in, it goes. Now this is flush. I could push on it. It's not wiggling in the wind. It's flush with the hull. That is perfect, but it also wants to fall down. So I'm going to take a piece of tape. Have you look over here because this is our next trouble area. This is going to involve a little bit of math and monkeying around, but we'll put this here, and I'll put some tape here like that, right? And then I want this flush with the hull, so I got to make sure it stays in. So we're good in the back, we're good up here. And then this is where it fits all the way in the front. Oh man, I gotta sing so long. Where are we looking at? Right here. So I want to mark along this bottom edge right down here. We're gonna take this straight edge, kind of like I did was describing in the previous scene. I'm gonna push this in. Because I need this bulkhead going straight up and down. I can't have it tipping in and out like that, or we're going to have problems. It's going to mess up our mark. But I've got it up against the hull right up here. So that also, we should tape in the bottom here. Let's make sure I'm in the shot all the way in the front. There's a, I know your guys are far away, but there's a corner here. So I've just connected that. We're fitting flush up here. I got my pencil, and we're going to make sure that my ruler's straight. This whole bulkhead is straight. And I'm going to extend this line down here. And we'll clean it up with a ruler. Get it like this. And all right. So, man, this is frustrating because we're still in focus. So let me spin this real quick. Okay, if I wasn't clear before, you see we have this V. Like it's just floating. The bulkhead touches up here, and right about there it breaks off. So we could glue the bulkhead to the funnel stack up here, but then from here on out it's floating. So I'm taking my straight edge, going all the way back here. I'm making sure that this is all straight, right? And then we got to get the bottom glued in. I got to get some, yeah, hopefully that makes sense, all right? And then we'll take this off and sort out that line that I drew. We'll add the width of the bulkhead here, the plastic, and then we can put our styrene strip in behind it. That's what I'm trying to do. All right, zoomed in closer, a bit of explanation at home. Hopefully you can make out on the screen I have a pencil line drawn all the way across, which I very carefully, utilizing a couple different rulers, verified. And basically what I did was I made sure that down here at this end, where it, this has to go here, So the bulkhead bumping up against it left me an outside line. So I marked that. I came back over here. The bulkhead fits in this corner right here. It's got to go there. And then using a couple of straight edges, I was able to get my center line. It was difficult because this thing is in the way. It's taking up too much room to actually get my pencil back here behind where I want it to go. So I've marked the outside edge of where this bulkhead lands. And I have this styrene that is actually microscopically thousandths of an inch wider than the bulkhead that we're going to put into position. So what I've done is glued these little tabs into place on the line to give me a little bit less depth. And then I'm going to take this thing, and I glued them into position with CA glue. And CA glue will dry brittle, and I'll be able to knock that off. Then I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to put it upright because I do want it standing up. And I'm going to butt it up to each one of these little tabs I've got there. That'll give me my spacing. I'll glue them in with my Tamiya. I'll let it fuse, and I'll come back and I'll bust off my little tabs, and then I will have my edge in place for the bottom of this bulkhead, so it will be supported up here all along this bottom edge, briefly right in here, all along this bottom edge, and then all along up in here when we finally glue this bulkhead into place. That is the best that I can do, short of, I guess I could shim this out actually. I have the skills. I could glue styrene strip on here and plane it away slowly to get a perfectly straight edge, and then that would help me going in and out. I'll think about that. Let's glue this in first and double check things. Okay, so we've got our framing done. This piece is in as described before, and I was mumbling to myself. I said, you know, maybe I could fill in this top up here, and then I had this epiphany. I don't need to fill in the top, I need to fill in the end. So what I've done here is affix two pieces of styrene, our normal piece and then this very thin piece, just to get out so that I'm out flush with this bulkhead right here, right? Now, if I zoom all the way back, I don't know if this will do it justice, but when I take my piece, you saw what I was dealing with before. Of course, now that I'm talking to you, I can't do it, but there we go. Throw it up there, and it drops in, and this fits, and I can push it in, and I'm set. It's perfectly flush all along here, and then my pencil mark that I'd monkeyed with, getting a perfectly straight line on this edge right in here, it works, and then I'm button up flush right up here. So if I bring you inside, I think you get the idea, right? So we're in right here. Now there's a gap up on the top right behind here, that V that I showed you before, but it doesn't matter because I'm firmly in place right here, and then I can go ahead and bump it up right here in the back where it touches, and we're good to go. All right, that's going to be it for this episode. The battery's dying on my camera. Next episode, we will go ahead and, knock this piece out. All right, guys, be safe.